Coming up on TPI.
The militia had operating hours. There was a whistle that would go at 10 a.m. and so we knew those hours and we would go and hide.
Hello everyone, welcome to TPI. We have an amazing show prepared for you. You won't regret tuning in. First up, Simisola Akai is here with our Inspire Minute of the Day. Simi.
Thanks, Moyua. I recently came across a profound quote from Don Cherie Wilkerson, who said, "If I could tell you one thing, when your dreams get bigger, the weight of the responsibility does too. And if you aren't careful, you'll find yourself complaining about the very things you once prayed for." I prayed for so many years to be a mom, and when God gave me two amazing children, I found myself complaining to God about being stressed and tired. Don Cherie's words cut deep when she said, "Complaining isn't just harmless, it's addictive and a thief that steals strength. What we need is gratitude. So don't waste the little strength you have complaining. Practice gratitude instead. For me, it means thanking God for the dirty dishes because it means I have children to take care of. For you, it may mean thanking God for the huge work project that is due now because it means you have a job. So stop and thank Him that you're living the very dream you prayed for." Moyua, back to you.
Thanks, Simi. The blockbuster movie Black Panther featured a mythical African country, Wakanda. Do you know people believe this is a real place? Well, there is one nation that's taken its claim to be considered the real-life Wakanda. Take a look.
We are home.
Prince T'Challa's return home to the fictional African country Wakanda is an unforgettable scene in the blockbuster film Black Panther.
This never gets old.
And so is this. The mountainside chant before T'Challa faces the challenge to his throne.
I, Zuri, son of Badu, give to you Prince T'Challa, the Black Panther.
This is the work of director Ryan Coogler, who traveled to Africa for the inspiration to complete the project.
I had great collaborators, but I had to get right with myself. I had to go to the continent, for the first time and spend some time there. I went by myself, and it opened up, a lot of things, man, both for the film, a lot of things for the film, but even more so for like, I think, insight into myself, and questions that I had about myself and my own identity.
So was this film self-identifying for you?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Bullet wounds don't just magically heal overnight.
They do here, but not by magic, by technology.
The technology of Wakanda inspires comparisons to real-life Rwanda.
Wakanda is real. There is a country where more than 90% of the population is covered by health insurance. Drones bring medicine to even the most rural parts of the country. This country can be found in the heart of Africa. It's real-life Wakanda. This place is called Rwanda. And actually, it's only a few hundred miles away from where fictional Wakanda is supposed to be.
The medical futurist Bertolan Mesco isn't alone in seeing Rwanda in Wakanda.
Marvelous. Like Wakanda, Rwanda is a small country, and it's gorgeous.
Take a look. There is simply no denying the beauty of the land of 1,000 hills.
If that's not some Wakanda realness here, I don't know.
And then there's Rwanda's economy. It's one of the fastest growing in Central Africa and praised around the world.
Just over 2 decades ago, the Central African country Rwanda was crippled by genocide, reeling after the slaughter of up to 1 million people. The infrastructure, the economy completely shattered. Well, with order and stability now, this country is hailed as a model of transformation.
I think if you'd said to anybody after the genocide that Rwanda would be as peaceful and stable and prosperous as it is today, people would have laughed at you back then.
And so, from Rwanda,
Rwanda forever. After the break, see how Rwanda has healed years after experiencing one of the worst massacres in human history.
April 29, 1994. Alice Makarinda lost her arm, her child, and nearly her life.
They took my child and they cut her in 2 pieces.
Your Turning Point experience doesn't have to end when the program is over. Follow us on your favorite social media. Welcome back. In 1994, Rwanda experienced a traumatic event that drastically changed the country and the life of every citizen. 25 years later, Ephraim Graham travels to Rwanda to reflect on this tragedy and show how forgiveness helped to mend this nation. Take a look.
With this horizon, it is easy to see why Rwanda is called the land of 1,000 hills. More than half of the population makes a living farming these lush lands. In 1994, however, this water-soaked soil became a tribal killing ground. An estimated 800,000 Rwandans murdered in just 100 days, mainly Tutsis at the hands of radical Hutus. The tension between the tribes stemmed from Belgian colonizers dividing Rwandans by ethnicity. They felt Tutsis were superior, and in the 1930s mandated all Rwandans carry ID to indicate their ethnicity.
We need to help one another. That is the only thing that is keeping us alive.
It's hard to tell Rwanda's genocide story without a stop here at the Hotel Mikoline. It served as a refuge for some 2,000 Rwandans during those 100 dark and bloody days. The hotel was also made famous in the film Hotel Rwanda.
Listen to me, good people of Rwanda.
This scene recalls April 6, 1994, the moment that ignited the genocide.
Horrible news. Our great president is murdered by the Tutsi cockroaches. They tricked him to sign their phony peace agreement. Then they shot his plane from the sky.
The truth about who shot down the president's plane is still not known, but the violence that followed will never be forgotten.
They took my child and they cut her in 2 pieces.
April 29, 1994. Alice Makarinda lost her arm, her child, and nearly her life.
The Interahamwe militia had operating hours. There was a whistle that would go at 10 a.m., marking the start, and at 3 p.m., marking the end. And so we knew those hours and we would go and hide. On that day, we did the same. We would either hide under the dead bodies when we heard them come to start shooting, or dig a place to hide.
Scars mark the beating and mutilation Alice endured after soldiers found her and her baby in hiding. They brutally beat her husband before rescue workers pulled him to safety.
When he started to come back to his senses, he remembered that they had left me. He asked the military and the police to take him back to where I was.
Genocide ended in July 1994. Paul Kagame, now the president, led a rebel group to seize control of the country. Since then, he's worked toward unity. There are no longer Hutus or Tutsis, only Rwandans. President Kagame reaffirmed his commitment to never see history repeated at an event marking the 25th anniversary of genocide's end.
Every day, we learn to forgive, but we do not want to forget.
Ananias Santosi is operations manager for the humanitarian organization World Vision. He says choosing to forgive is what's moving the country forward. After the genocide, World Vision was on the ground with first aid, food, and medicine. It also played a major role in reconciliation.
You cannot think of long-term development if people are disconnected, united.
The radical Hutu militia pushed propaganda and encouraged citizens to participate in the killing of Tutsis and moderate Hutus. After the genocide, many of those responsible flooded the criminal system. But President Kagame refused to kill as punishment and abolished the death penalty. Instead, he offered another solution, a system of community courts called Gacaca. It allowed criminals to confess and seek forgiveness.
I started forgiving myself when I stood in front of the court.
Emmanuel Nadiyaseba confessed his crimes after prison, became a community building volunteer, and while working, he realized he was actually on a team with one of his victims, though she had no idea who he was.
We both joined the Association of Peace Building and Reconciliation that World Vision was involved in.
After her attack, Alice said a prayer.
I wanted to be close to God and not just be on the surface.
Asking God to bring her to those who wronged her and to lead her to forgiveness. She didn't think her prayer would be answered. And then Emmanuel asked to speak with her.
I was always sweaty. I was always nervous. Everything was hot everywhere. I fell down on my knees and raised my hands up and told her that I am the person who was responsible.
The next thing I remember, I was at the hospital. I didn't respond. I guess I was in shock.
I was still on my knees when she fainted, and they took her away.
Days later, Alice asked to meet with Emmanuel and only asked he apologize to her family. She then became an advocate for him in court.
I was able not to go back to prison.
It's only God. I can't explain it. It's only God. Nothing else. No one else.
God always intervenes to restore all things. The Bible says in Colossians chapter 3, verse 13, bear each other's burdens and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord has forgiven you. Next up, I have a sit down with a guest who not only has a unique music style, but an amazing story. You don't want to miss it.
Wish I could soar. I wish I could soar to another day. With me.
I just burst into tears, and it's funny because my parents thought there was something wrong. They were going to call the cops, and they were just really scared. But I told them that God saved me.
Your Turning Point experience doesn't have to end when the program is over. Follow us on your favorite social media. Welcome back. I discovered my next guest when I heard his music at Premier Radio in London. His simplicity yet spiritual sound caught my attention. And it turns out he only lives an hour from the studio in Virginia Beach. I thought, this has to be God. Please welcome IAMSON. Orlando, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for inviting me.
Now, of course, you know something of the story of how I discovered you. I'm sitting in Studio 2 at Premier Radio in London, which is the only commercial Christian radio station in London. My head of music had put this song on, so I'm listening. I'm like, who is this guy? IAMSON. And so I called him, and he said, oh, yeah, we've been playing it for a while, you know. And so then I sent you a message saying, oh, my goodness, love your stuff. Yeah. How long have you been writing and making music?
I've been writing music for maybe 5 years now. Okay. And yeah, I've been enjoying the process, growing and as a songwriter. I put out my first album not too long ago. And
now, I have to say, you look like you're all but 17 years old, trying to disguise yourself behind facial hairs. So how old are you?
I am 27 now.
Ah,
yes.
Yeah, big man. Wow. Yeah. So for you, what was the first moment that you knew you were called by God to make spiritual songs? Because the stuff you do, you could easily do neo soul, you could easily do, you know, some pop stuff, but you choose to do spiritual songs. When did you realize you were called to do that?
Yes, well, I've been a musician in the church since I was 5 years old, but I started songwriting maybe in my early 20s, but I was saved at the age of 16. So it was at the age of 16 where I began to merge my creativity with the Spirit of God.
What was that moment like at the age of 16? When you go back to that moment when you got saved and got born again, I mean, you've been in church since 5. Yeah. I mean, what was the big thing that tipped you over for you to say, Lord Jesus, come into my life?
Yes, it was random because I've been hearing the church talk for a long time, all my life. You know, my father's a pastor. So it was strange how it happened. I was just in my room listening to the radio station, and I was just talking to God, like, God, I want to know more of you, and I don't want to be a sinner, or I know that I'm a sinner, and I want you to save me. And just as simple as that. And he came into my room one night, and yeah, I just burst in tears. And it was funny because my parents thought there was something wrong. They were going to call the cops, and they were just really scared. But I told them that God saved me, and it was then on where I began to just merge this new awakening and the Spirit of God with the creativity that has always been there. Yeah.
Now, there's so much we could talk about your music, but I wonder if we just linger a little around this salvation story, because there might be some parents who have a son. They could be pastors or elders, or they're not ministers in church, and they're worried about their children, their son, their daughter, and they dearly want them to have that experience that you've had. Yeah. What are some of the things that you would say to them to do to get their son or their daughter to that point that you were at?
Yeah, I just think that continue to train them up, and then I feel that God is going to be doing the pursuing. But as long as you instill good morals, good values, and continue to instill the work of Christ, then God's going to pursue them at some point.
So you train them up, then you hands off and let God do the pursuing.
Yes.
I mean, that must be difficult for a parent, I'm sure, because you want to make sure they don't go to hell, they don't fall in the wrong hands. Yeah. But you're saying from your experience, what works is train the child up and step back.
Well, yeah, my father and my mother are very good images of God. They weren't really forceful, but they just kind of told us the truth, and they were patient, and they were kind of strict, but they were also understanding when we were wrong, and they would talk us through, and they would kind of relate to us and tell us about how they were when they were my age. So they made me feel understood, and they were very patient. So I really appreciate the upbringing that I come from.
Let's talk a bit more about music, because you're part of a number of different worship collectives. Yes. I know in the last few months, I mean, once I saw you on the radio station, I started stalking you. Now I know you've been in Europe doing missions and whatnot. There's a song that I just can't get out of my head that you just threw it at us on social media. He's still working on me.
Yeah.
He's still working on me. So don't think you know who I am from knowing how I was. And don't think that where I am now compares to where I'll be.
Tell us the story of that song.
Yes, so I wrote that song in college, and it came out of a place of just kind of recognizing how a holy God.
Sorry, college is what we in the UK and Africa will call university.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So recognizing the holy God, and then my need as a sinner for God's mercy, and how God is always demonstrating that mercy and grace towards me daily. So just speaking more so to people, is like God is continuing to change me. This salvation piece is a process, and He's steadily sanctifying me and consecrating me. So God is continuing to do a work in my heart and in my spirit. Yeah.
So the conferences that you've been to in Europe, and the sessions you've led worship, the writing that you've done, what for you do the next couple of years look like on the IAMSON street?
Yes, well, I have been working on many projects, but hopefully by the end of this year, I'll put out another project for me, and I'm very excited about that. But yeah, I just want to continue to be in those spaces, songwriting. I love songwriting for the church, and I love performing. I love just leading and just being in creative spaces.
What does success look like for you at this stage in your journey?
That's a good question. I'd love to get into like string arranging. I'd love to get into like more productions.
Now that's a real musician talk.
Yes.
I want to get string arrangements.
Yes.
Most of us are like, a string who?
Yeah. Even like movie scores. I want to get into that world, but I'm also a songwriter, so maybe just incorporating all of those things within my own art, within my own projects, and just see where it takes me.
So if it doesn't go to #1, you're happy so long as you're creating?
Yes, yes. That's the #1 priority.
Wow. So finally, who would you say are some of your biggest influences in terms of music? Is it Christian artists, or are there non-Christian artists in there? Or,
yeah,
you know,
it's all over the place. So I have a lot of influences in jazz music. Robert Glasper. I have some soul influences. A girl named Emily King. But also like just the gospel experience, like the Kirk Franklins, Fred Hammonds, Mali music, and the list goes on.
Well, there's a young man in the UK that you so remind me of, Called Out Music, Sam Nwachukwu, and there's such similarity between the two of you. It would be amazing to see a collaboration between you and Called Out Music.
Yeah.
But IAMSON, thank you so much for joining us on TPI.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Don't go anywhere. After the break, we get to hear the unique sound of IAMSON. You won't want to miss it.
They said, I am covered, for my God passed over me. I'm alive today, my sins erased, for the blood is covering me.
Your Turning Point experience doesn't have to end when the program is over. Follow us on your favorite social media. Welcome back. We've come to the end of the show. We hope you've been inspired by what you've heard. But I have one final thought for you. Forgiveness can be a struggle for most, but the Bible encourages us to forgive just as our Heavenly Father has forgiven us. Now, don't forget to follow us on Facebook at TPI Zone and share your comments with us. We'd love to hear from you. Here is IAMSON closing us out with Passover Song. We'll catch you next time right here on TPI. Goodbye and God bless you.
When my mind looks back to the last great night when my God searched for the blood, when he saw the red resting on your post, then my God passed over us. Can you hear the children sing to the mighty King of Kings? They said, I am covered, for my God passed over me. I'm alive today, my sins erased, for the blood has covered me. We prepared to march out of Pharaoh's reach, only dressed in haste. When the hour came, God delivered us, then we were no longer slaves. Can you hear the children sing to the mighty King of Kings? They said, I am covered, for my God passed over me. I'm alive today, my sins erased, for the blood has covered me. How can I forget on that great day when my Christ died for the world? He became the Lamb, perfect sacrifice, freeing every boy and girl. Can you hear the nations sing to the mighty King of Kings? They said, I am covered, God passed over me. I'm alive today, my sins erased, for the blood has covered me. They said, I am covered, for my God passed over me. I'm alive today, my sins erased, for the blood has covered me. Salvation, Jesus bled and died for me. I'm alive today, my sins erased, for the blood has covered me. For the blood has covered me. For the blood has covered me.